Again, I am joined by Matt and Adam as always. Boys, I hope you're all well and I hope you're ready to get stuck into the last part of Group D. If you've missed the England podcast, please go check that out. With our special guest G, we have completely covered it. As England's fans, we've sat there and we've talked about so much, it needed its own pod. But we are going to look to the other game, which is China. China's lineups came with the 4-2-3-1. We had Zhu in goal, Li in the back four with Wang, Yao, and Chen, and then in front of them we had Yao and Yang, and in front of them we had Wu, Zhang, Zhang, and El Zhang, and then Lu up top. For Haiti, we had in goal, we had Theus, Mathurin, Louis, Joseph Petitfer, Pierre-Louis in front of them, and Moril in front. And then we had Louise, Judy, Mondesir, and then up top we had Borgella for Haiti. They were a 4-2-3-1. Matt, how did this game go? And is there any particular events that we need to know about? Because I didn't see this game, unfortunately.
Well, there was so much to unpack. It was VAR galore. There were Zhang Rui is now going to miss the England game because she got a straight red card. Originally, it was a straight yellow. VAR intervened and said it was a straight red. I lost count. There could have been so many. I think Haiti could have had about 3 penalties at one point. But VAR intervened. In the end, China got their penalty, and Wang Shuang puts it away to pretty much give them a fighting chance of getting out of this group. The problem I have is that they've got England next, and England are pretty much almost there. A win for China will guarantee that they go second as well. However, Denmark play Haiti, so if England and China draw, that means that they're both through, and it doesn't matter what happens with Denmark and Haiti. However, I just have a feeling something's going to end up happening, and China have sort of been very defensively solid, even though they've only conceded 1 but scored 1. This is the group of 1-0 games, though, so it is difficult to say what's going to happen between the next couple of games. But it wasn't a very watchable game. But if you're a neutral and you wanted to have some sort of entertainment, especially with VAR, this was probably a game for you. But it wasn't that thrilling as a Group B was.
Absolutely. I mean, Adam, at the moment we've got England atop the group. We've had two wins, which is 6 points, the goal difference of 2. Denmark are just behind us with 3 points and a goal difference of 0. China, 3 points, goal difference of 0, and Haiti, 0 points with a goal difference of -2. Is it safe to say Haiti are on their way home?
Yes. And before you ask, no, I'm not going to repeat my prediction because after the reaction it caused last time. If you want to see my prediction for the game, check out the England podcast. But for the sake of my tenureship on this podcast, I believe I shall stay silent on that one. Lottie is laughing. She was not laughing at the time of recording, that's for sure.
If you want to see my extreme reaction to what Adam said and my utter restraint to not swear at him I did post-pod.
It was incredible restraint. Yes. But yes, I think Haiti are out. I mean, I did see the highlights of the game, and I think they played very well and were very unlucky. They even had a penalty of their own that got chalked off.
Do you think their goal now is just to get a goal in?
Just to score a goal? Yes, I think so. I think they got Denmark next, haven't they? I mean,
yes.
mean, good luck to them, but I think Denmark will win that one.
There is gaps in that defence. I think it could be possible if they play the way they did against us. It's possible.
The thing in both games, actually, Haiti, in both against England and China, they've played, reasonably well. They've made good chances. They've been followed by great goalkeeping moments and just poor finishing at the end. But the approach play has been pretty decent. They should have stayed. There was the save that Earps made in our England game, but there was chances in the first half. There was one they ran through, sliced wide. There was a header close up, headed wide. They've just not. It sounds stupid, but like they've just not scored. They've got themselves into the position, the key position, and just not made it count. That's the only thing that's held them back. Otherwise, it could easily have gone the other way. So if they take their chance, if they get the similar chances against Denmark and take them, they could easily score a goal then, and that will be a momentous moment. If Haiti scored in the World Cup, what a moment that would have been. They're unlucky against England. They were unlucky against China. Some very bizarre VAR calls and non-VAR calls happening, as what Matt was talk about. But I do think this is goodbye from Haiti, and it's a shame. It's another debutant, but they've certainly left an impression, and I don't think this is the last we'll be seeing of them. One of the players is going to be in Lyon, I believe, next season, so definitely one to watch in the Champions League.
No, absolutely. I mean, I can't remember who it is, but I remember thinking absolutely incredible. If you go and check out our First England pod, you will see our thoughts, maybe apart from Adam, because he wasn't there, but you'll see mine, Matt's, and our special guest's thoughts on this particular player.
And she was great against England, I should say. She ran us ragged, so fair play to her.
No, absolutely. And that is everything for Group D. As we said earlier, go and check out our England pod, which is also out already, for all our thoughts on England, because we're England fans and we can talk about England literally for an hour. But we're going to move on to the other group, which is now Group E, and it was a replay for the USA and Netherlands, which sadly ended up in a draw. The US came out with a fairly strong side, with Nair in goal, back four of Fox, Germer and Dunn, a midfield three of DeMello, Sullivan, Horan, and up top we had Rodman, Morgan and Smith. The Netherlands countered that with a 3-1-4-2 with Van Domsela in goal, Janssen, Van der Garat and Spitzer, and Groningen in front of them.
Jackie Groningen,
thank you. Then we had a four of Van der Donk, Roord, Brooks and Pelova, and then up top we had Martins and I can't pronounce this one. Snows.
Oh, Sneeze.
Nice. There we go. Thank you very much to all our wonderful Dutch friends. I am so sorry. But thank you, Adam, for helping me out there. Boys, what have you thought of either of these teams, especially as it's a replay?
Matt, do you want to go first? Or
this was going to be one that was going to be considered a boxing match. I mean, I think the fans really ripped into it. I think the more of the American fans, you had a lot of, I hate the platform TikTok, but there was a lot of that going around. A lot of he said, she said, especially from Jonker, that was sort of feeding bitterness towards Americans. You can't say that. We're champions of the world, blah, blah, blah. All the same things that just sort of the typical arrogance that you associate with Americans was very much coming out with the I hate the calling it WOSO, but it's very much seemed that way. And the lineups were basically a reflection of Jonker's adaptability with his Dutch side, deciding that both Esme Bruce and Victoria Pelova are playing as wing backs and using that as a training technique, so that I think for this game was going to be probably a masterstroke for him. It's an additional weapon that they can use it further down the competition, whether or not who they play. I was looking forward to this one. It was a shame that it was at 2:00 in the morning, or if you're in the Netherlands, 3:00 in the morning, which meant a lot of people were either going to watch the game, having an hour of sleep, and then going to work, or they were just going to watch the game, get up and go to work. But it was such a bizarre game, and anything and everything that happened. I mean, it was so nice that it actually defined a country, that the Netherlands, who were competing in the water polo finals, actually won. They were thanking Danny van der Donk, and unfortunately, for those that haven't seen, there was an incident where she's banged her head, and she's had to have a swimming cap on just to stop the bleeding. There was a nice photo opportunity between her and Lindsay Horan afterwards. There was also the fact that she also swore on national TV as well, post match. I won't say the words, but it was pretty funny because she was swearing in English, not in Dutch. But
that's absolutely brilliant.
Go on, Matt. We won't tell anyone. Go on.
Absolutely brilliant.
No, we'll keep this PG. I think someone has a bet about who's going to swear first on this podcast. So
oh yeah.
Let's leave it at that.
That was almost me earlier after Adam's prediction for England. But 17 minutes, Adam's flop of the tournament, Jill Raw, proved him wrong.
Wow. Right, okay. Stop right there. Let's just make this absolutely clear. I did not say that Jill Raw was the flop of the tournament.
You predicted her to be the flop of the tournament.
Did I say?
That's not your words. Yes, you did in front of literally before we recorded this pod. So.
Right. Okay, that's perfect. It was not that she would be the flop of the tournament. It's that when I made my She Plays League, I said that she was one of the players I thought was not going to do well. I'd not say, because the flop of the tournament is clearly going to be Katie Sellen. She's not even going to get on the pitch. But that's why she's also in my team.
Watch her start now. Stop it. I'm
encouraging her. This is your moment. Take it. I didn't think Jill Raw was going to play well because I don't think it's not rated her. And those of us who are Arsenal fans and watched her play for 2 years, and luckily, Lottie, you missed the Jill Raw era at Arsenal. That passed you by. You missed that one. She wasn't.
And now I get to watch her at the City era. No,
exactly. And why do you think?
I don't think it's going to work out well at City.
No. Yeah. Well, let's get back to international football. And
fair play. The goal was actually really good, and this is what I woke up. I was ill, I was struggling to sleep. Woke up in the middle of the night and saw it was about, I think, 3:30 in the morning, or 2:30 in the morning, wherever it was. I thought, oh, well, you know what? I'll just check how the Netherlands are going, seeing if they're holding the USA to. Oh, they're winning. Oh, blimey, roared. So I quickly wound the goal back, and it's actually a really good goal. That the Netherlands work the ball from back to front, get it to Palova, first cross blocked, cuts the back to Roord, one touch, and drives it through the crowd and into the bottom corner. Real surprise. These World Cup rematches are a bit bizarre how the draw works out. I remember in 2014, when we had Spain and the Netherlands. Actually, the Netherlands again. In this case, it was a repeat of the previous final. But just because it's a repeat doesn't mean it'll be the same result. And as we found out when the Netherlands battered the Spanish 5-1, it's a very fun game to watch. So the idea that it will be a repeat here, I think, was a bit off. Although until this game, the USA had won every single game they played in the World Cup since 2011, which was a draw against Japan. In fact, they hadn't even gone behind in a World Cup game since they semi-final that same competition when they drew 2-2 with Brazil. Brazil took the lead in that game.
And they went to penalties.
Remember when Wambach got the 123rd minute equaliser and they beat Brazil on penalties, bonkers game. But Brazil had the lead in that one in extra time. So that's just what the weight of history the USA were fighting against a team that obviously, if you watch the highlights in the of the final, the previous tournament, there's no highlights, there's no fight. It's just USA until they win. The Netherlands had just completely outclassed. This was different. The USA, the Netherlands were brilliant in that first half. Rod got that goal. Ravas, I think, sort of stunned the USA. Probably weren't expecting it, and should have shouted out. I think it was Dominic Janssen almost got a second with a dipping volley, land on the roof of the net. So I went to bed thinking, oh, I can't wait for the full time result. I actually dreamt it was going to finish 4-4. So imagine my disappointment when it didn't turn out that way. But yeah, I'd say we're going to obviously get into the second half. But yeah, I think it was the result in the end. I think probably does the Netherlands more joy than the Americans. I was saying that one, an incredible game of football.
Absolutely. I mean, with this goal, it's like amazing as Jill would have scored it. I just think Palova was absolutely incredible. I feel like she's not getting enough credit for this. I really don't.
No.
Can we expect this at Arsenal?
I think we are seeing it at Arsenal, aren't we? We're seeing her
bit more, a little bit more,
even more Palova. I hope so. I really do hope so. We've seen. I think we saw so much good from her as that season came to an end, and you think, well, is this going to be one of these things where they come in the first half season, look great, and then full season they taper off, and you don't see much of them. Looking at her performance in the World Cup, especially in this game against best team in the world, USA. You'd say no. There's more to come, and that's really exciting. The signings that Arsenal have made have meant we've got real attacking depth now. I don't think we'll see Palova on the wing next season because of the depth. So she's either going to be like how Yonkers used her as a full back, wing back position as an alternative, maybe as another right back. Now that Wienreich is injured, maybe she could slot in there, or in the central midfield. I think we'll see more Palova for Arsenal. I think that would be very, very exciting to watch. Why can't it be September already? This is let's just.
You mean October?
Or October even. Well, whenever it's not September.
Champions League first.
Yeah, I know that, but if there's 2 players definitely on their way home, as far as I can see at the moment, but there's still another 10 still playing.
Well,
no.
Yeah, I mean.
So because we've got 12, I think we've got 12 out at the moment, but the second goal of the game came to the US, and at this stage, this was their 7th corner of the game. Lavelle had come off the bench. Her delivery from that corner was met by Lindsay Horan, and she heads it home. Matt, is there any way the Netherlands could have stopped that at all?
It's one of them where it's almost like, the Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing to each other. It's almost like there's sort of a debate over who should have been marking her, because what I've been reading from Netherlands fans, especially the ones that are friends, she was left unmarked.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm in goal, I'm 5'5".
You're playing goal and you're 5'5".
Well, I'm not playing in big goals, bear in mind. I'm playing in I think they're like 6 foot by 8 foot, something like that. So it's not huge goals.
No.
So when it comes to corners, I tell my defenders to mark size for size. That means I don't want to see someone my size marking someone of Adam's size. Adam's 6'4".
I'm not 6'4". I'm about 6'2/3", but not 6'4".
The point is, you're gonna get on the end of a header before I even get a chance to.
Yeah, and I won't have to jump.
I can't do much. So, in that situation, you've got to make sure that everyone knows what they're doing. I know tournament football has this. It's a huge percentage of about 73% of goals come from set pieces. But you've got to make sure that you know what you're doing, attacking and defending. There's no point in just sort of being really sluggish and not really turned on at every point, because it happens. But when it comes to set pieces and nothing happens and you're switched off, that's when goals happen. And that's where the US will hurt you. Sophia Smith nearly had an opportunity to score with a last-minute header, I believe, and make it 2-1. Lika Martin ended up clearing the last minute a header to make sure that it stayed 1-1. And Tobin Heath is raging about that, by the way, because she predicted 2-1. But it's just you've got to know the basics, and if you're not doing the basics right, you're not going to get very far unless you are able to get those opportunities, like in the first half with Jill Rords actually scoring those goals. That if you're able to do that more often and score goals from, or if you're scoring goals from outside the box like a Cape special or anything like that, and outscoring the opposition, then fair enough. But you need to make sure defensively you're sound, otherwise you are not going to get far in tournaments.
I think the big disappointment for the US for the Netherlands is that the goal they conceded was one that was avoidable. If you set get your defenses up right on the corner, then you clear it. You can understand if it's like a wicked delivery and a brilliant time header and it's a brilliant move, but you always feel corners. You should always have a chance to clear it if you get your structure right. And they obviously did everything else right. The USA didn't score from open play, they didn't get the winner. But if they'd managed that one set piece correctly, they could have come away with an incredible win. Should say though, I mean, at the moment they're tied now with the USA for points. They've got a good chance if they outscore them on the last game, which I'm sure we'll maybe might discuss later. They could top the group, and the USA could finish second. The USA could actually finish third, but again, we'll probably get to that later. But no, I think it's a great point for the USA. Great result, ends the USA's winning run in the World Cup, and maybe just suggests that they're not maybe the immortals we might think they are now.
I think this is towards the end for them. If you think about that team. That from 2015 to now, how many of that players are left? Very few. If I remember rightly, it's Mewis, Lavelle,
Rapinoe.
Yeah, thank you. And it's Rapinoe's last World Cup as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's about 4 or 5 of them that are all.
Matt, sorry, which Mewis? Because there's 2 of them.
It's Christie.
Thank you.
Alex. Yeah.
Is it Sam? Sam Mewis is injured, or I get confused.
Yeah. Sorry, I never remember which one is there and isn't. I know it sounds really bad and disrespectful, but it's a bit like you asking me which Quinn plays in defence and which Quinn plays up top for Ireland. No idea.
Yes. Louise Quinn plays at the back. She plays for us.
Yeah, we know. I know.
Which Turner plays for Man U and which Turner plays for Spurs. I mean, that's the
exactly. But there was another game in Group E, which was a little bit more exciting. History has been made. Portugal v Vietnam, their first World Cup, first 3 points, and the first 2 goals they've ever had. Especially after the Euros last summer. In the last 12 months, this is absolutely massive progress. Portugal had a 3-4-1-2. They had Morris in goal. They had Borges, Costa, and Seca as a 3. In the middle of the park, they had Alves, Jacinto Pinto, and Macau. And then in front of her, we had Nazare. And then up top, we had a combination of Silva and in Kanako. Vietnam had Kim Tran in goal, Lon Huang, Tu Tran, Demile, Luong, Tu Tran, Tran, Nguyen, Tai, Duong, Bichnu. Oh gosh, that sounds like I'm swearing.
First swear. There we go.
No, BICH. This is
actually something. This is one of the problems, isn't it? A lot of the commentators
and then up top they had Hun. I haven't got any opinions of this up front, although Kika Nazare was one to watch for me. We know what Portugal can do. Both of you saw Portugal in the Euros last summer, is that right?
Yep, we sure did.
Did you see any? I can't remember off the top of my head if there was any goals.
There were plenty of goals from the Portuguese. 4 of them actually. Yes, Portugal, very growing talent. I think a talented group at the moment.
Massive. If they're scoring in Euros, they're scoring in World Cups.
Yeah,
massive progress for Portuguese.
A lot of that team is in the Champions League with Benfica on a regular basis, so they're being exposed to a higher level of Champions League. They're yet to qualify out of the group stages, but they are probably every time they get into a group, they're the underdogs. I remember last season being thrown against Barcelona and Bayern Munich in that group. They could have quite easily have gone through. All they needed was 3 points from what I remember, and they would have gotten second, which would have meant going to Benfica instead of Bayern Munich. But and that would have been a hell of a game in itself. But Portuguese football is on the rise. We know this for a fact. We've seen a lot of Portuguese players being picked up on the cheap, being brought over. In men's, I imagine come this tournament, it'll be the same for the women. A lot of other teams and international players are using the international the Portugal League as a stepping stone. is the Chloe de Casters of the league. After 5 years of playing in Portugal, are now moving on to the the WSL, and I was going to say higher up leagues. The more
I think what's really interesting, because Canada have no leagues, Chloe Lacasse actually started off in Iceland, and then she moved over to the Portuguese league. I think there was a stepping stone between them, but there's a lot of these Canadian players that fly onto the radar unless they're playing in the NWSL, or in the Swedish leagues. They're not anywhere else.
But yeah, Portugal is now becoming that league. And there's some of these players that are becoming a bit iconic. You've got Jess Silver. Everyone talks about Jess Silver as she's become.
Linked with her.
Yeah, well. I'm sure we were. But I think
Multiple
after the Euros, she was the player everyone was talking about with her step overs and trickery. Nazare, as you mentioned, she's now becoming a bit of a star. The two goals are just things of beauty. The first one's a wicket crossed in and a volley on the stride, smash past the keeper, no chance. The second one is that the Vietnam keeper's gone long. They get it, they work the ball, they work it round through the players, through the defence, slip through, chases on, slots it past the keeper, bottom corner. That's 2 goals in the first 21 minutes of the game. Now, sadly, we didn't add to the total. And Vietnam, Vietnam. They're the debutants. They are the team that everyone is going to beat, unfortunately. But Portugal obviously got the 3 points they needed. They were quite defensively determined, I'd say, against the Netherlands. They only lost the 1 goal, and that was a goal which I think has been debated over whether it was offside. They maybe considered us quite unlucky, and obviously they held us to a 0-0 draw as well. And they're in a very interesting position now going forward, Portugal. Play decent football. Looks like they've shored up their defence a bit after some of the harem-scarum stuff we saw at the Euros. They have the USA next. Now, logic would dictate that the USA would win and go through. But if Portugal beat the USA and the Netherlands beat Vietnam, as we probably expect them to do, the USA go home from the group stage. It would be one of the biggest shocks of world football if the USA went home. And there was talk on Twitter after seeing the way Portugal beat Vietnam. Suddenly they're going, they might better get the USA a game. I think maybe that's going a bit too far, but it does make you dream, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, especially after their first goal from Telema and Karnakal, first ever goal for the World Cup, as I mentioned earlier. Pinto slides it forward to Alves, who chips a great cross into the box. Vietnam don't get back quick enough, and in Karnakal, she's there. She gets there first, and she just sells it to the top right corner. And I mean, it was like a work of art. And a few minutes later, 21 minutes later, Francisco Kika Nazare gets it in. Poor goal kick again from Tran. And it's cut out by the Portuguese, and Carl squares it to Nazare, who has acres and acres of space. Really bad defending from Vietnam here. She moves over to her right and keeps it cool and slots it past Tran again. I mean, I know there's such thing as bad goal kicks, Matt. As a keeper, your goal kicks, getting rid of the ball, it's really important.
And it's also important how you take them as well. It's just maybe it's miscommunication. She meant to go long, and instead that for whatever reason she's completely mishandled it, and it's gone a bit awkwardly. But this is one thing that is one thing for Vietnam as well as Haiti, some of the other debutants such as the Philippines. They're learning as they're playing. They're not going to look back at this tournament and go, oh, what if this, and this. It will be, right, okay, how can we get to make sure that we're at this World Cup next time around? What do we have to do? What are the development paths? What are the pathways available? What can we do to ensure that we make sure that come 2027, we are in that draw again, wherever it may be? And it's going to be moments like this where Vietnam will look back and go, okay, yes, we could have done better. But I think Vietnam have shown that, okay, they lost 3-0 to the US, Portugal 2-0. It's still development because these games are still quite tight. If Vietnam end up scoring the first goal against the Netherlands, imagine the chaos that could cause in that group.
It'll blow it wide open.
Like I know this sounds preposterous, but imagine if Vietnam scored in the first minute.
Yeah,
That's their first goal at a World Cup final ever, and then you've got Portugal and USA just hearing the news as soon as they kick off that Vietnam are 1-0 up. That means Portugal and USA all they need to do is draw, and that for 90 minutes. She's on mute.
Sorry, I wasn't talking to you, so I do apologise. No, absolutely. Anything can absolutely happen with this group, and I think that's the most fascinating part of it all for me personally. I'm going to move on to the last and final game, which is actually, funny enough, Group G, South Africa and Argentina. It ended up 2-2. Matt, you said this game was really interesting.
I'm banned from using that word. You're trying to wind me up.
I'm not.
She says, laughing. But it was very end-to-end stuff from the beginning to end. Don't mean that ironically or anything. It genuinely was end-to-end. South Africa going 2-0 up was just something that you couldn't imagine. It could have been 3 or 4. I'm not even kidding. It was just opportunities after opportunities, and then I thought very unfortunate they just couldn't take them. And then somehow Argentina find themselves back in the game with a lovely effort. I'm struggling to find the
Brown. It's Brown that got it. Brown got it.
Thank you. And then Nunes goes and scores a header and makes it 2-2. This is again, that's what football is about. You go through the motions, you go through the roller coaster. Yes, you're 2-0 up to the despair of we got a draw out of that, and to sum that up at 1 o'clock in the morning for that to go. I didn't watch it. I had to watch the highlights. But to be honest, had I watched that at 1 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't have needed anything to wake me up. That's for sure. No breakfast or tea or coffee or apple juice, orange juice, whatever you have in the morning for your breakfast or with your breakfast. That would have been enough to wake you up, because the adrenaline you would have felt from that game alone would have just carried you on throughout the day.
It's always interesting that the games that you maybe aren't invested in are sometimes the best games of a tournament. I have no horse in this race, South Africa or Argentina. It's not a game I bat an eyelid on, and if it was the
best games are always the one that
I know.
neutral. It's not your own, because you're not going through the motions.
Absolutely.
I think that's why I enjoyed Portugal and Vietnam so much. It was just like, wow.
But it's more than that, because if this game was like a 1-0 or maybe or 2, I might not really pay attention to it. But it's the high scoring carnage of two teams. Let's be fair, Argentina and South Africa. No offense, but I can't see either of them winning the World Cup. I'm not trying to be brutal here, but Argentina are still a growing force, as are South Africa. But the spectacle put on, I mean, like Matt, I had to catch the highlights just before we started recording, because just for time reasons, I hadn't a chance to catch the game. I did catch the result when I woke up, and that was a surprise. It was watching it back, the first goal I think was called offside, VAR intervened. Lots of I think South Africa missed a hatful of chances. There was some really wild finishing going on there. They just cut Argentina open at will. Should have been 4-0 up. And then, as you say, out of nowhere, Brown with Braun, I don't know pronounce his name, I do apologise. But the dipping volley to just out of nowhere take Argentina back into the game is incredible. And then obviously Nunes with the glancing header. Argentina being one of these teams, I feel like they should be better, but I think that's because of my bias of watching the Argentina men and assuming that that talent would transpose over. They have been playing for quite a few years at this level. I mean, I mentioned before they played in 2007. We played them in 2007. In fact, we've played them quite a few times. But in 2007, we played them. We thrashed them 6-1. Argentina thrashed them 11-0. I think they actually scored their first ever World Cup goal against us, or something like that. I may be wrong there. Or certainly the first goal of a tournament. I just feel that have they developed up well? They I think they lost to Italy. I think the first game very late on. They didn't. They almost held out against the Italians. They probably won't be going through, but certainly a very, very decent spectacle. And to claw back 2 goals when it looked like the world was against you, that's some pretty good spirit shown. Then South Africa could probably feel quite unlucky. They should have won that game well before then. Was it last 15 minutes? they chucked it. That's not great game management, but lessons learned maybe for the next World Cup.
This is the other thing as well, just quickly before we move on, is that Sweden play Italy next. Now, if Sweden win, they go through, no matter what. Now, that means
absolutely.
that...
I mean, they're tied on points at this point. I feel with this group, it could go any way for that second spot. It all depends on how badly Sweden batter Italy. Or it could be the other way around, and Sweden could be going home.
And that's the beauty of the World Cup, is that anything can happen. The big teams can go home and the little teams could progress. But it's set essentially whatever happens between Sweden and Italy, those last two games against South Africa, Italy, Argentina, Sweden, they're going to set up properly. This is where you'll be thankful that we are in a huge technical advancement, that we can be able to watch multiple games at once. Imagine if it was like 2006 again, 2007, where you'd have to flick over one TV, or if you're lucky, sometimes you might have two TVs going.
It's like the thing of Back to the Future 2 when they're talking about the multiple TV screens, and he says to his son, back in my day, I got two TVs and stuck them together, and that's how I watched two programs at the same time. But yes, nowadays you can put an iPad on and put another TV on, and you're good to go, aren't you? So, that's definitely a group to be simul watching.
Definitely. There's one of my gadgets. I can actually have two games side by side on my TV screen.
Even better.
So. Absolutely. But boys, that is everything for this pod. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate your time. I know it's very late in England right now, but it depends when you're listening to this podcast. But we will be back on Tuesday again, and we will see you soon.